Recently, a game called No Mercy got banned on Steam after 77,000 signed a petition to bring it down for its graphic and controversial content. The story was everywhere, so you've probably seen it. But in case you didn't, No Mercy is a sexually explicit video game released by Zerat Studio, where the whole idea is for the protagonist to essay women, including their own mother, torture them, force them to give birth, and then unalive the baby, while instructing them to never take no for an answer. The promotional material for the game read, "In this game, you'll either become every woman's worst nightmare, or rather, the best they'll ever have. Your goal is simple. Leave no non-fed, since that's the only thing they all want." Shortly after it was released, the internet somehow found out about it, and the outrage was out of this world. Obviously. With so much backlash and pressure from the petition, Steam had no choice but to pull down the game, before it then got banned in the UK, Canada, and Australia. Of course, some people still argue that banning the game was an attack on free speech, but is it really? I mean, I get that there are so many degenerates online, but why would you even defend something like this? But then, No Mercy isn't the first game of its kind to get banned for its controversial content. There are dozens of games like this, with edgy plotlines made by people who like to push the boundaries of humor or entertainment. So let's talk about some of them and why they eventually got banned. On April 21st, 2006, a Japanese gaming company called Illusion released a 3D eroge video game called Play. Eroge is a genre of erotic video games that are pretty common in Japan, and just like No Mercy, this one was also centered on non-consensual sex. Players play the game from the perspective of a vengeful repeat offender, stalking and saying a mother and two daughters, with very graphic imagery and multiple scenes of gender-based violence. Initially, the idea was for the game to only be available in Japan, but it was also on offer to British buyers through Amazon Marketplace, and it wasn't until 3 years after its release before the backlash would start. In 2009, a lot of people started protesting against the game and how it trivialized the trauma associated with SA. The whole thing became so big that it made it into the mainstream news, with many organizations calling for its ban. With the bad reputation associated with the game, Amazon decided to pull it off their shelves, but the developers didn't seem to agree with the critics. They believed that if games that depicted violence and murder could be allowed even for children, then what's the difference? This defense didn't work though, as in May 2009, the Ethics Organization of Computer Software, an independent organization responsible for rating adult games in Japan, restricted the sale and production of the game. The game was also banned in Australia, Argentina, the United States, and the UK. But SA isn't the only thing capable of ending a game's lifespan. Sometimes the reason is way more disturbing. Ethnic Cleansing is a first-person shooter game released in 2002 by a white supremacist and neo-Nazi organization known as National Alliance. It sold for $14.88, and players could choose between playing as a KKK member or a neo-skinhead. The mission was to kill African Americans, Latinos, and Jews depicted in a stereotypical manner, and to make matters even worse, it was released on MLK's Day 2002. Not surprisingly, the game received so much negative attention that it became known as one of the most controversial games ever released, thanks to its racist plot lines and the message it tried to promote. As of March 2002, 2,000 copies of the game had been sold, and according to the founder of National Alliance, William Luther Pierce, the game served as a medium for the message that teenagers could be subjected to even before being old enough to join the National Alliance. It didn't stop there though, because in 2002, Resistance Records, the arm of the National Alliance responsible for releasing the game, dropped yet another game called White Law. Here, players would go on missions as a former SWAT member called Michael Riley, whose job is to reclaim the fictional new American capital City, from people of color. I'm not sure whether this game was ever banned in the United States or anywhere, and unfortunately, it isn't the only racist game on this list. In the same year 2002, another video game called Border Patrol suddenly surfaced on the internet, where players could shoot at Mexican immigrants trying to cross the border into the United States. The game had only one simple rule: keep them out at any cost. Players are told to target one of 3 immigrant groups portrayed in a negative stereotypical way as they rush past a sign that reads, "Welcome to the United States." I don't think I have to explain why this game received so much hate, but just like the Ethnic Cleansing game, it's not clear whether this one was ever banned. Unlike other games, which got into a lot of controversy after release, the drama surrounding Bully started way before anyone even knew what the game was about. As soon as Rockstar dropped the poster for the game in 2006, everyone freaked out. It all began with the name, which created this impression that the game would promote bullying, and you have to admit, that would be pretty dangerous, especially since it would be available to kids. Initially, the game received a T rating from the US Entertainment Software Rating Board, meaning it was suitable for kids of ages 13 and up. But there was one man who wanted the game gone forever, Jack Thompson, them. Jack was an advocate who fought against violence in games, and once he set his sights on Bully, all hell broke loose. Before the game was even released, Jack filed a lawsuit attempting to block the game from ever getting on the shelves, while declaring it a nuisance and a Columbine simulator. However, on October 11, 2006, Judge Ronald Friedman, who was in charge of the case, asked Rockstar to provide the court with a copy of the game, and after playing it himself, he realized that the game wasn't actually as bad as people tried to make it out to be. 2 days later, he ruled in favor of shipping the game. However, that wasn't the end of the Bully drama. The major problem came from the fact that the entire game took place inside a school, and although the plotline was more of an anti-bullying campaign, the damage was already done. In the UK, a lot of gaming retailers refused to sell the game, but the situation was even worse in Brazil, where the game was outright banned in 2008. Anyone who was caught selling or even owning the game faced a daily fine of 1,000 Brazilian real. However, this didn't stop people from accessing the game through other means, right until June 2016, when the ban was finally lifted. Which of these games do you think should have never been banned? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.